Music rights for film, where do you start? Well, you have to find out who owns the publishing on it, who owns the rights to it. That's pretty easy to do usually. You can go to ASCAP or BMI, see whoever is the owner of the rights to it. It should say either ASCAP, it should have an ASCAP or BMI logo on the music. You can do some research on either their websites and find out who owns it, and then you'll find who owns the rights to it, and then you go to that entity and you tell them, I have a short film that I would like to license this music, this song. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be more than you want to spend. This is why licensing music for a film when you're doing for a short film is a very iffy proposition. Yeah. I mean, it's possible that you can get the rights. You're going to only be asking for limited rights, probably. You're probably only going to want it for festival use, unless you're thinking you might want to distribute the film down the road after you go out to festivals and maybe put it on VOD or put it out on short film like Shorts HD or Shorts TV and try to make a little money there. But if you're just trying to license it for some limited festival run, like a limited festival run, it's not as expensive as if you're going to make money from the film. So if you're just licensing it for a limited festival run, you might be able to afford it. But that's what I would tell you. You're going to wind up talking to some attorneys, because that's usually who does the negotiating. But just, you know, tell them you're a broke filmmaker and you really love the song and you'd like to license it for a limited festival run, and see what they say. They could come back with something in the neighborhood of $500, but they could also come back with something in the neighborhood of $5,000. So just be prepared for anything and see what comes. And if it's something that you can't afford, then make a big sigh and write something else. Have somebody you know write something. They might ask for scripts. They might ask for pages. If you've already shot the film, they might ask to see the film. They might ask, if you're the director or the producer, they might ask for the director's statement, why they made the film, what they're trying to say with the film. If they think you're really passionate about this project and you show your passion for the project and why this song really means something to you and really means and says something specific to this project and in this story, it might help make your case. It might. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. And it depends on the artist. It really depends on the artist. Some artists say absolutely not, and some artists are willing to listen and be flexible. So good luck. I always tell people when they're making low budget indies and shorts and web series, don't fall in love with songs. Fall in love with a composer. Fall in love with a reasonably priced. Yeah. Fall in love with a reasonably priced composer who's willing to work with you and your budget constraints, who will write music that is geared towards your project. That way you don't have to worry about songs and licensing music and all of that stuff. The composer's going to write music that fits your piece, and it will fit like a glove, and you won't have to worry about a song and paying licensing fees. But you know, sometimes here's something that happened on one of my last films, Mr. Hopewell's Remedy. We had a post-production Kickstarter campaign, and we had a lot of interesting stuff on our Kickstarter campaign. I talked about the film. The writer, who's also co-producing it with me, who also starred in the film, talked about the film and what it meant to her. The other two stars, who were big names, James Patrick Stewart And Steve Tom also talked about the film and what it meant to them and why they did it, and why they, as actors who could have done much higher profile things, why they opted to do this short film with us. The composer talked about why he was doing it. We showed a few of the scenes that had been cut together, and we showed a little bit of the behind the scenes at the studio where we shot it. And it was a really nice little Kickstarter video. Okay. And she's sending this out to all of her friends back east and all of her family, and they're sending it around to all of their friends, and it's getting around. And this composer, this songwriter, out of the blue, contacts her and says, I want my songs in your movie. I want my songs in your movie. Now, has that ever happened to me before? Never. But this guy, he had a CD. Now, he's not a singer-songwriter. He is a flute player. And he plays this alternative music, and he's got CDs out, and he's really cool, and he wants his songs in the movie. So he sent us his CD, and we listened to it, and we're like, this is awesome stuff. So he talked to his publisher, and the publisher was like, sure, we'll license it to be in this movie. And so we picked out 3 songs, and we put 3 of his songs from that CD in the movie. It can happen that you can put songs in a movie, but it didn't happen that I fell in love with the songs and said, I have to have these songs in the movie. And then we reached out to the composer, and then we had to convince him, and then he had to convince his publisher. It didn't happen that way. The composer saw the Kickstarter video, fell in love with the movie, said, I want to have my songs in your movie. And then he turned around and convinced his publisher that his songs had to be in our movie. So that's how that happened. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't going to put any songs in the movie. I was just going to have all, original score. So I just lucked out that, we just completely lucked out. Otherwise, it would never have happened. So it can happen that you can find a songwriter who falls in love with your movie. You can. Not saying it will, but it can. So the other thing you can do is you can get a composer and you can have them listen to the song and say, could you write something similar to this? Similar enough that it's got the same feel, but different enough that it would not violate the copyright. So you have a song that feels like that song that you're in love with, but it's not that song that you're in love with, and it doesn't violate the copyright, and you have a song. Now you can do that. You do have to record it somehow. You have to get a studio, and if it's a song with vocals and everything, you have to, have a vocalist and somebody, write the words, and you have to have somebody sing it and perform it in a studio and record all of that. Or if it's just an instrumental with a guitar maybe, or whatever kind of lead instrument, you'd have to have that. Most composers who want to write music for movies have really good orchestral sounds in their computer that they're called sampled sounds, and they are samples of the actual instruments that have been recorded, so that that sounds like the actual instruments when they put them together in music and when they make music out of them. So they have all the sounds of all the instruments of the orchestra right inside their laptop or their desktop computer, and they can access them by way of a keyboard. Generally speaking, they don't have the human voice. So if it's a song that somebody is singing, then you'd have to have somebody record that in a studio. So that's all I'm saying.